For anyone who's joining, this is a safe place to come and talk about anxiety, ask questions. The thing that qualifies me is years of suffering. That's all. So I'm here to help people answer any questions that you've got, and yeah, that's it really. You got DPDR, okay? So you can talk about DPDR if you like. I don't know if you've watched my lives before, but I always give this example. So I'm sorry for anyone who's joining, who's heard this before. Okay, you've not joined the live before. All right. So DPDR. So I'm going to explain it how I came to understand it, and I didn't just suddenly get this understanding. It came to me over years of reading, learning about the nervous system and different symptoms and things. But every symptom of anxiety, well, no, that's not true. The core symptoms of anxiety are driven by the fear response, and the fear response is a subconscious mechanism to keep us safe. So for DPDR, depersonalization and derealization, so if you're in a real dangerous situation, DPDR, depersonalization and derealization has a real crucial part to play in saving your life. And the example I always give is if you're in a burning building, right? So you're stuck in a fire in a burning building. Who you are as a person, so what you like, who you love, even those closest to you, your favourite foods, your favourite TV shows on Netflix, and everything else that makes up your personality and who you are is of no use to the brain when you're in danger. Absolutely no use whatsoever. So you are depersonalised in that moment, because it's of no use to the brain. That brain power needs diverting to getting you safe, getting you out of this fire. So your personality is completely shut down, hence depersonalization. Derealization is the brain's ability to... It kind of detaches you from reality, but it doesn't really. What it does is it focuses all its energy into imagining an escape route out of this fire. So it uses all of the data that it can see, hear, what it already knows about maybe the surrounding buildings in the street, how high up or low down you are. And the brain works to create this plan, right? In your imagination, in its mind, to detach you from the immediate dangers of the situation to produce this escape plan, okay? And it uses all of the data, so it can imagine you out. It can imagine itself outside of your body. It can imagine looking down on the building or looking down from the ceiling or, from across the room. And it can imagine what it can see, and it's using all of the data that it can gather to paint a picture, right? And all of that is there to find an escape route, to get you out of the danger, to get you out of that fire. Now, in a fire, it makes complete sense, doesn't it? Right, to depersonalise you for one, because your personality is of no use, and to derealise you to create this escape route and create this plan. So that fear, that's part of the fear response. Now, in anxiety, what happens is over a period of months or years, it doesn't have to be months or years, it can happen relatively quickly, but in anxiety, what happens is the body enters into a sensitised state, or more specifically, the nervous system enters into a sensitised state. And when I say nervous system, I'm including the brain in this. And there is a part of the brain called the insula. And the insula is like this module that listens to the body and emotions, but it listens to the body and all of the physical symptoms and everything that you're experiencing inside of the body. It collects that data, and including the feeling of DPDR. And then it gathers data from the amygdala, from the hippocampus, and then it has like calls to action across to the locus coeruleus and another part of the brain called the periaqueductal gray. So I'm explaining all that because I want you to understand that the insula is key here, because when you get this feeling of depersonalization and derealization, over time you come to dislike this feeling and become afraid of it, and there must be something else wrong with you. That's what you become convinced by, that there must be something else causing this horrible thing that you're experiencing, which is DPDR. And because of that, we generally respond to this fear of it, and we'll almost always starts with Google. right? You know, finding out what the hell could be causing this horrible symptom, asking others if they've ever experienced it, and the research begins. Now, when that happens, we are telling the fear response that it's correct to be afraid of this feeling. Because when fear activates, when we become afraid of something, it listens. It says, hey, person, is this dangerous? What I'm experiencing, the insula's detected this. Is this dangerous? And it looks at memory and it says, well, in the past you've thought this was dangerous, so it must be dangerous. And it uses that to reinforce the fear that it's sending to you. And all these parts of the brain over time become incredibly sensitive every time we answer that question with a yes, it's dangerous. And we don't answer it consciously. It's not a conscious thought that can answer the question. It's the behaviour. It's the behaviour in response to the fear. So the behaviour in response to the fear is we Google, we ask for reassurance, we go to the doctors, we get tests, and we do this generally repeatedly over and over and over again. So the DPDR gets worse because the amygdala and the insula and everything else, and the hippocampus, they all get together, they have a meeting, all right? They all have a meeting in the brain and they say, this is dangerous. We need to turn the volume up here. We need to be firing signals out into the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. We need to be firing signals out to detect this feeling even quicker. And not only that, we need to magnify it because we need to keep this person safe. This is our person. Our whole job is to keep this person alive, and they've told us it's dangerous. So we need to intensify this feeling to get them to respond even faster. And we get stuck in a loop because the more fear activates, the more DPDR we get. Now, that exact cycle is the same for every single physical anxiety symptom and mental thought, for that matter. And fundamentally, we're dealing with a neurological problem here. A sensitized nervous system from repeated behaviours in response to fear, reinforcing fear, telling it that this thing is dangerous. And it's the same in OCD, in agoraphobia, health anxiety, emetophobia, all of social phobia, the same, all of them. It's the same mechanism. It's all the same mechanism that's going on. Now, of course, we're all different, but fundamentally, that's the problem. Behaviour in response to fear can equal an anxiety disorder. It can also equal anxiety recovery. You just have to change the behaviour. 53 comments already, wow. How do you cope with emetophobia? Well, how do you cope with any form of anxiety, really? You can't. And proof being that we all try to cope as best we can. And the best our brain can come up with is we need to try and find a solution to this problem. And the only solution we can find is reassurance behaviour, safety behaviours, and avoidance. All right? So those are the things. So reassurance is part of safety seeking, really, but safety behaviours and avoidance behaviours are the two types of behaviours that feed and magnify anxiety. And the reason that happens is because when we're dealing with this horrible thing that's happening to us and we become so afraid of it, our brain's programmed to find solutions. And in every other situation in life, it is correct to try and find a solution, but not with anxiety. Because it is the search for a solution that in itself makes it worse. We resist it. We resist anxiety and we make it worse. So how do you cope with emetophobia? Well, you can't cope with it because it's fucking horrible. You know, the fear of being sick is just horrendous, and especially in public. So the only way we know how to cope with it, because it's how we deal with the rest of our life, is to try and find a solution. So we avoid eating certain foods. We avoid eating at certain times of the day. We avoid eating before we're going to see people or before we leave the house. We might take anti-sickness tablets to try and control the symptoms and stop the symptoms. We become overly aware of anybody who says they feel sick, or if there's a sickness bug in school and we've got kids. And all of our attention, all of our behaviour, pretty much all of our life gets consumed with the management of emetophobia. And it's all going down the route of trying to find safety, trying to stop it from happening. But that very behaviour is what makes it worse. That very behaviour is what answers the question. Remember, whenever fear activates in humans, right, in a non-life-threatening situation, because in a life-threatening situation, everything gets taken over automatically, and that's what we want to happen. But in anxiety, fear is saying, hey person, is this dangerous? And the only way it gets an answer is from your behaviour. It's the only way. So if we respond and say, all right, being sick is dangerous, we then set off a cascading effect of behaviours which just reinforce it, and it just grows and grows and grows. And like I said, this is the same for cardiophobia as well, because your attention just gets taken to your heart. Agoraphobia, because your attention gets taken away, focused on. Thank you for the gift. That's very sweet of you. Gifts are not necessary, guys, but it's very sweet, and I do appreciate it. And thank you for the likes and the shares and all the other things. It's all. I do appreciate it all. But yeah, anyway, this mechanism is the same for almost everything that we experience in anxiety. Any tips for how to get rid of it, man? Because it's messing up with everything. So this is the DPDR, how to get rid of it. You have to stop resisting it. So how to get rid of anxiety is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. There's nothing that can just snap you out of any physical symptom that you're getting. Pretty much. There's no quick fix. Stop searching. I dedicated the entirety of my 20s and 4 years of my early 30s, right? So, actually, and the 2 years, 18, 19, 20 as well. So 15 years, let's call it 15 years, dedicated to finding a quick fix to anxiety, trying to find the golden bullet, the answer, the cure, the thing that would change it for me, like that. And I never found it. And I tried everything available, every type of CBT, ACT, hypnotherapy, Reiki, all different types of vitamins and supplements, different antidepressants, everything that I could possibly think of. I tried so many different books, listening to things, watching things. I thought I was just a hopeless case and the worst case of anxiety that had ever existed on the face of the planet ever in all of humankind. That's what I thought. But there is no tip I can give you other than you have to learn acceptance. You have to learn to stop resisting. And again, this is the same for every anxiety symptom. You have to stop the behaviours. So the research, the Googling, the asking for reassurance, the going to the doctors, avoidance behaviours. Avoidance behaviours might have to be gradually reintroduced, but safety behaviours just need to stop. There is no gradual reduction of safety behaviours. That's not strictly true. Things like Googling and asking for reassurance and going to the doctors over and over again, those need to stop. There are other safety behaviours that are less problematic, shall we say, and they can fade away over time. But those, especially reassurance and Googling, Googling is just looking for reassurance, isn't it? They have to stop because they just tell the brain that this thing's dangerous. I'm really struggling at the moment. I don't know where to start in feeling better again. Where to start with feeling better again is to get the right information. To stop and go, okay, everything I've tried thus far isn't working, right? It's not working. I'm already suffering. No matter what I do, I'm either staying the same or I'm getting worse and I'm suffering. So what we need to do is we need to look. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing again, over and over again, expecting different results. And that's what I did for a very, very long time. So I am not judging anybody for any of these behaviours because I've done them all to the max, So we've got to look at changing what we do. So the first thing I would say is get the right information about what it is that we're dealing with. And there are lots of different books and resources out there that are excellent resources of information. And I've put them all on a website. So I've created a website. If you go to my TikTok profile after this live, there's a link to my website. There's no ads on there. I don't ask for your email address and I'm not selling anything. There is a page on there called Useful Resources and it has links to the books that I recommend that have got the right information, podcasts that can teach you about the nervous system, podcast that can teach you about disordered anxiety from two people, Drew Linzelatter and Josh Fletcher, also known as Anxiety Josh and The Anxious Truth, both chronic sufferers of anxiety that have completely recovered because they learn a new way. And the way is that we have to stop resisting anxiety, and instead we have to try and move forward with it with an attitude of acceptance. But it takes time. There's no quick fix. So if you're already suffering, right, if you carry on doing what you're doing, you're still going to be suffering in 6 months' time. So you might as well try something new. Because even if it doesn't work, you're still going to be exactly where you are today, which you would have been anyway. Because it won't just magic away. Honestly, I tried everything, guys. I empathise with all of you. I really do, because I've been there. I've been stuck in that fucking anxiety cycle where I can't stop Googling. I can't stop asking for reassurance. I know what it's like. I don't try and get rid of it. Let it be there. Accept it and carry on with your life. Don't fight. Yeah, absolutely. Now there's a very key thing. So most people don't accept correctly in the beginning, me included, right? Because what I did is I accepted and then I waited. Has it gone yet? Has it gone away yet? Is it working? Is it working? Has it gone away yet? And what I meant by is it working is, have all the anxiety symptoms gone away? Am I no longer afraid? And am I now anxiety free? Right? But that's not acceptance, because acceptance, the whole essence of acceptance is not having a judgment either way, whether it is there or not, and instead moving forwards regardless of its presence. So we have to accept it and accept that it's going to be there for as long as it's going to be there, and we have no control. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to feed it anymore. We need to let the process called neuroplasticity take place, and that takes time and repetition, right, over and over again. We're no longer going to do the safety behaviours. We're going to gradually remove the avoidance behaviours, and we're going to face our fear. We're going to feel afraid, plenty of it, plenty of fear. It's going to be terrifying, but we're going to accept it, and we're going to move forward slowly. Together, we're going to suffer forwards, because there's no point of suffering and standing still. We might as well suffer and move forwards, even if it's only an inch at a time, and a tiny, tiny little bit at a time, because over time, eventually, those little bits of recovery add up to complete recovery. So it's a process. It's not something that can happen overnight. And I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news that there is no quick fix to anxiety. There just isn't. There are things that can help, and I'm pro-medication, right? So medication can help, but we have to use the benefits of medication to help us move forwards. Someone said, Tracy, absolutely correct, fight or flight, and we become stuck. Yeah, although fight or flight's a little bit outdated, if I'm honest, because the stress response or the threat response within human beings has evolved over time, way beyond the old hunter-gatherer idea of, being attacked or running away. It's not just some leftover thing from, centuries ago. It's something that has evolved with us, so it activates for many, many different reasons as we've evolved. So yeah, but you're right, we become stuck in this. What it is the sympathetic nervous system, which is the stress part of the nervous system, is the dominant nervous system all of the time. The other reason I don't like fight or flight is because I myself and many other anxiety sufferers go, yes, but why am I experiencing these symptoms when I'm not anxious? When my heart rate is at 60 beats a minute and I'm breathing perfectly normally, I'm not sweating, I am not shaking, I am not in fight or flight, yet I am still experiencing these horrible symptoms. And that's another reason why I don't like fight or flight, because it is far too, it's too narrow, right? Because it's about the sympathetic nervous system being activated. Lisa having a bad episode at the moment. Just stick around, Lisa. Everyone who's struggling, just stick around. Tips for cardiophobia. It's all down to behaviour again. So tip one, in fact, this goes for everything, not just cardiophobia, but tip number one for anxiety is go and get medical assurance. Not reassurance, assurance. Go to your doctors, ask for the blood tests, ask for the ECG, right, and get checked and tested by your doctor. I'm not saying ask for every possible blood test that's ever possible. I'm saying go to your doctor, present your symptoms, and ask for medical assurance that you are physically fit and well according to tests. And basic blood tests, by the way, detect an enormous amount of things. I've done a TikTok on that. They detect an enormous amount of things. So that's the first thing. Go and get medical assurance that you're okay. Because without that, you'll still have this doubt in your mind all the time. And then you have to use that medical assurance with knowledge of the nervous system, which I'm giving you here, to change your behaviour. It's all about behaviour. Because every time your heart skips a beat or races or pounds or bangs or goes irregular, whatever the symptom is, chest tightness, pain in your arm, whatever, right? All of the symptoms that are associated with cardiophobia. Whenever those symptoms happen, the fear response activates and says, hey, Evelina, who's asked this question, hey, Evelina, or hey, person, is this dangerous? And we go like this, check our pulse, look at our smartwatch. Oh God, how come my pulse is going fast? I'm going to do an ECG on my smartwatch. I'm going to take my blood pressure. I'm going to stick the oximeter on my finger. And I'm not judging anybody because I did all of those things and more, even more. And that answers the question, hey person, is this dangerous? With a resounding yes. So that, again, neurological change happens over time, over a period of time, neurological change happens and the symptoms grow and build and become more intense and they happen even faster and the fear response kicks in even more and the cycle becomes over and over and over again, just keeps going and sensitizing and building and sensitizing. And the more it sensitizes, the more symptoms we get, the more symptoms we get, the more it sensitizes, the more we go to safety behaviours, the more we believe that this time it is going to kill us. And it just carries on like that until we're at the point where we 24/7 feel skip beats, every third beat, every other beat. We have racing heart constantly. Our heart rate's always over 100 and we're constantly like this. This because the safety behaviours are the only thing that seem to give us just a tiny bit of peace, but they stop working. They all stop working. So we have to get the medical assurance that we are okay. We are medically fit. Now, we don't have to believe that medical assurance. We just have to act as if we believe it. And if we believed it, would we keep checking our pulse? Would we keep the smartwatch on? Would we keep Googling? Would we keep calling ambulances, going to A&E, going to the doctors? No, we wouldn't. And in time, and it takes time, and most people give up because it doesn't happen quick enough, but in time, your body will begin to desensitize, your nervous system will begin to desensitize to feeling all of the symptoms to do with the heart. And eventually, the belief in your mind that your heart is okay, or not okay in this case, it will change. And you will believe it. So you don't have to believe it in the beginning. You just have to act as if you believe it. But you've got to do these behaviours, these changes in behaviours for long enough for neuroplasticity to take effect. Thank you, Roxy. That's very sweet of you. Yes, we need to do it for long enough because none of us learned to ride a bike overnight. Or learn to write or read. None of us learned to do this just like that. It took years. Handwriting takes years to perfect, doesn't it, from a child? I play the piano, and it takes me months to learn a new piece. It doesn't just happen as soon as I hear it and sit down at the piano and start playing it. It takes a long time. It's the same with this. Patience is something that we don't have as anxiety sufferers, but we have to learn it. We have to learn patience, we have to learn courage, we have to learn patience, and we have to trust the process, and we have to, above all, learn acceptance, which is very, very difficult, but it takes practice. Again, I don't believe there's any perfecting acceptance or perfecting anxiety recovery, because that's what I try to do. I'd try to get all of the knowledge and then perfect it to try and be the A-star student that got to the end of the course like that and then it was all gone and cured, but it doesn't work that way. It's progress and small steps, and for each person, those steps and things are different because it all varies on the intensity, the different types of anxiety, your support system, what's going on in your life. There's so many factors. My panic attacks are becoming very different now. Dizziness, making it hard to cope. Jazz, you have my sympathy, my friend. Dizziness that comes along with anxiety is, I don't even think you can explain it to somebody. I mean, the dizziness that comes along with anxiety is just something else. You know, the floor bouncing up and down, the floor moving away from you, feeling like a sponge, the world kind of going like this. You can get the room spinning, the sudden brain drops where you just suddenly feel like you're dropping, the milliseconds of loss of consciousness. I get this weird eye-brain disconnect, coordination all wrong. It's off the charts. Like, the dizziness is off the charts, but it's not true dizziness. It is, like, you are feeling it, and it is real, and it is being caused by the nervous system, or the feeling of passing out, obviously, and losing consciousness as well. But we have to look at really what's going on here is the malfunctioning of the nerves. I say malfunctioning, that's not strictly true because it's functioning how we're telling it to, but the functioning of the nerves have changed to create such an imbalance within the body, as well as the imbalances that are going on in the body already. So you've got to think of all of these autonomic systems that are going haywire because of anxiety. So we've got, thank you for the gift, that's very sweet. We've got blood sugar levels spiking, and then insulin levels spiking because the glucose isn't being used. And then we've got this going up and down. We've got blood pressure going up and down, oxygen and carbon dioxide levels going up and down, adrenaline, cortisol, and many other hormones. You've got your immune system activating all the time because the immune system is part of the stress response. So the immune system hasn't got a fucking clue what's going on. And all these systems are going, what the fuck? We're trying to keep up here. Is it any wonder we feel dizzy? Is it any wonder we feel DPDR? Is it any wonder we feel faint, really, when all this is going on all of the time? Now, none of this is dangerous. None of it is dangerous or going to put you in any, real physical harm or danger. But try and tell yourself that. Try and believe that, but you can't. You can't believe it. So with things like dizziness, the thing that helped me the most was when I saw a consultant neurologist, and people have heard this before, I've joined my life before, but it's really important for those that haven't seen it before, is that there is a difference between being dizzy and feeling dizzy. To a doctor, being dizzy is where you do fall over, you do completely lose coordination and trip over things that aren't there. You cannot walk without a walking aid. I don't mean you feel like you can't walk. I mean you actually physically cannot walk without a walking aid. And being dizzy, and you are passing out or fainting or whatever, that's being dizzy, and that's very, very important medically, and a doctor needs to investigate that urgently. Feeling dizzy, on the other hand, is very subjective to us as individuals. It can't be seen by a doctor, and that rules out a myriad of serious physical health complaints right there. The ones that are left over, the other physical health complaints, some of which need treating and serious, are easily detectable, generally speaking, on blood tests, routine blood tests. HbA1c, check for diabetes, your thyroid, etc. And listen to your heart and stuff. Obviously your heart should be checked as well, but it can be ruled out pretty quickly. Once all that's ruled out, then what you're left with is this feeling of dizziness, this sensation of dizziness that is beyond something that you can explain to somebody. And again, it's down to behaviour. So the dizziness comes along, the fear response activates and says, hey person, is this dangerous? Now what I did, I would avoid standing up or avoid standing up too quickly. I would stand up and then wait and get my balance. I would try and walk next to something all of the time. I would avoid going anywhere that had open spaces that I had to walk over. And the other thing that I would do, and this isn't just for dizziness actually, we do this for lots of other physical symptoms of anxiety, including cardiophobia, is we use our body as if it's weak and frail. So we'll kind of shuffle forwards with our feet. We won't stand up tall and walk with confidence and take normal strides. We'll kind of shuffle forwards tentatively, and we use our bodies really tentatively. And all of this tells the fear response when it's saying, hey person, is this dizziness dangerous? All this behaviour feeds it and tells it that it is. Something else I used to do with things like checking my coordination like this, because that's what a doctor did with me once when I went in, convinced I had a brain tumour or MS or MND or ALS, one of those horrible things that was going to kill me. I was utterly convinced for 9 long years until eventually I got a brain scan and saw a neurologist who told me the story that I've just told you. And so what do? You then have to challenge the dizziness. You have to stand there and say, go on then, make me pass out, make me fall over. I'm going to walk over that car park, that open space. I'm going to walk over it with confidence, stood up tall, and you've got to take me down, anxiety. And you have to challenge it. And when you're doing that, you're telling the fear response, hey, this is not dangerous. Right, let's read some more comments. I've got so many comments, guys. So I'm scrolling through them quite quickly to scroll past all of the follows and the likes and the gifts, which is very sweet, by the way. Thank you, everyone who's gifting. But it's not necessary, but I appreciate it. I'll put any money that I make towards my website because that costs me about 20 quid a month, and I'll re-gift the rest. Sorry, it's just taken me a while to find what are symptoms constant. Why are symptoms constantly changing? You recover from one and then another starts. That's a really good question. Because ultimately, it's because you're not actually curing one, right? You think you are, but you're not. But ultimately, the nervous system continues to sensitize over and over and over again, and the longer you suffer, the more it kind of exponentially sensitizes, or that's how it feels. And so if you think about, let's just say the symptoms start with the heart, right? What happens is, the insula detects these heart symptoms. The amygdala comes in and says, hey person, is this heart symptom dangerous? We start checking our pulse. The brain says, okay, I'm going to listen more carefully to the heart. And then we remember that arm pain is also dangerous. So it starts listening to the arm. And then we remember that shortness of breath is a heart symptom. So we start listening to the shortness of the breath. Right? And then we hear about cold feet and heart failure. So we start listening to the feet and cold feet. And before you know it, the nervous system, right, pretty much all over the body is becoming sensitized, right, to detect symptoms all over the place. So once you lose fear of one, more importantly, more accurately, the nerves, it's too late then. The nerves around the rest of the body have become sensitized. So they start to detect things in those areas and start feeding that back to the brain. All of the while, by the way, when I'm saying the nervous system, I'm including the brain in this, and the insula, right, which is the part of the brain that listens to the body, that becomes sensitized as well, and that listens to the entire body. So the insula is becoming more and more sensitized every time we are responding to these symptoms. So it starts to detect other symptoms that are in different places, and then brings in, the hippocampus. Oh, the last time we had a symptom and we triggered fear, this person said it must be dangerous. It must be. And obviously, all the while we are Googling, and the more we Google, the more we learn, and all of the different ailments that we learn about and the different symptoms that go along with it. So it all builds and builds and builds over time. So you're not actually defeating one. And this is why, by the way, you don't tackle each anxiety symptom with a technique. There are certain techniques or behaviour changes. There's techniques to the behaviour changes, but not techniques to the symptoms. Because a technique to the symptom is like, you see all the time, don't you? A great cure for a panic attack is putting ice on your face. Well, that's great. What happens when I ain't got any ice? That's a technique, right? To try and rid yourself of a symptom in the moment. That's a technique, but a technique to the behaviour, that's different. But you can't really... Josh and Drew in their podcast call it techniquifying, which I think is brilliant. So sick of... sick dizzy with it. Yeah, I know it's so bad. Just scrolling through some more questions, so bear with me. I'm just going to have a little drink of my tea as well so my mouth doesn't go too dry. Thank you for the support, by the way, guys. Do you get headaches? I had a headache for years here, right? It's right there on the top of my head for years, every day, and it was always worse on a morning. So it must be a brain tumour, because I read somewhere that brain tumour symptoms are worse on a morning. Always there, right? Always, and it was there for about 10 years. And that, coupled with going numb all down one side of my body, all down the right-hand side would go numb, my face would droop a little bit, I'd slur my words. Convinced I had a brain tumour. Still took me 9 years to get one, not a brain tumor, sorry, a brain scan to rule it out. It still took me years to get the doctors to refer me. And guess what? I didn't have a brain tumour or MS or MND. I had something called functional neurological disorder, which never came up on my Google searches. What does it mean? The functioning of your nervous system has gone completely mental as the result of chronic anxiety, and it's causing all these physical symptoms. And that's when, that was a turning point for me when I got that diagnosis. And it moved me on to learning about the nervous system, because that's when I realised just how powerful the nervous system was. But yes, I do get headaches. I don't get an enormous amount of proper pounding headaches, but how can I not get embarrassed easily? That's a difficult one, that one. I mean, it depends what you're doing, I guess. All you can do is do your best in everything that you do, and I think that, see, that's the sort of thing that I think general counselling or life coaching more specifically would help you with, to look at the specific scenarios. Suffer badly with cardiophobia. I love your name, by the way. Oh dear. I'm not repeating it because some people might not like it. Will my symptoms ever stop as I can't take the medication for it? To be honest with you, Lisa, so someone said here, will the symptoms ever stop because they can't take medication for it? To be honest with you, there is no medication that exists that eradicates anxiety symptoms. They only lessen them ever so slightly. And the best I've ever got is about a 5% improvement on my level of anxiety symptoms. So that's the best I've ever got from medication. So there's no medication that exists. So the fact that you can't take medication for whatever reason, whether it's choice or a medical condition or whatever, don't think that that then means you can't recover. You don't need medication to recover. Will my symptoms ever stop? They can. Whether they will or not entirely depends upon you. And if you're willing to change your behaviour and you're willing to stop the safety behaviours, stop all of the safety behaviours, the avoidance behaviours, and face the fear and learn how to accept it and learn how to not want it gone anymore, and instead just decide that you're not going to make it important. You're not going to make it important by Googling, by looking for quick fixes, by seeking reassurance, by avoiding situations that make it worse. Instead, you're going to refocus all that energy on living your life. And over time, neuroplasticity will take effect and desensitize your nerves and the symptoms will stop. My symptoms have gone from 24/7 crushing, bedbound in this bed for a long, long time, mostly housebound, 95% housebound since 2016, 100% housebound from 2020 to 2022, and it was nothing to do with COVID lockdown. COVID lockdown was a fucking dream for me, by the way. But you know, when lockdown was lifted, I was like, I ain't fucking going nowhere. I'm staying right here. And I couldn't leave my house for 2 years. Ever feel like you're not here all the time? Yeah, I do. I talked about it in a TikTok that I made the other day when I was out walking my dog in the woods, and I just felt like I wasn't there. Like my legs weren't mine, like I wasn't there, like the dog wasn't mine. I didn't know who I was. DPDR, full on DPDR. So yeah, it's very, very common. Have you tried EMDR? Yes, I have tried EMDR, yes. EMDR has very strong evidence for helping single instance trauma. The mental health community got a little bit overexcited about its application for pretty much everything. They went a bit mad and went, EMDR, it's brilliant, it saves everyone. But the research that's been done on it suggests otherwise, suggests that it's no more helpful than conventional therapy, except for single instance trauma. I'm not a therapist, though. I've just read studies. So, you know, I only pass on what I've learned. That's all. Right, what else we got coming up? Intense dark doom depression feeling towards the end of a panic attack. Yeah, and that's really common. I mean, for one, you're absolutely depleted of everything, but any form of dark doom depression feeling with anxiety, I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, if you've lived with anxiety, I mean, it's exhausting, and it's hard not to fall into a pit of self-pity, and I was in a pit of self-pity for a very long time. So much so that I pushed everybody away in my life. Who would want to be around me, because I was just a Debbie Downer. I was just down about everything. But completely normal. It's heart slowing down. So for me, someone said about heart slowing down. I used to get this feeling where I'd get like this, like a bit of a bump in my heart rate, and then it'd go boom, 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 and slow down, and it scared the shit out of me. And then bradycardia, or a slow heart rate, was way worse for me than tachycardia. I could deal with tachycardia because I knew tachycardia being a racing heart. By the way, I shouldn't use these terms, because tachycardia, all it means is you've got a fast heart rate, or rather sinus tachycardia, which is what most of us have with anxiety, is your heart's beating in a sinus rhythm. It's just faster than usual. And it's, faster than usual doesn't mean it's going to cause any damage, by the way. I have that on good authority from a cardiologist who I asked multiple times. It means that it's beating faster than normal. And it should be investigated. Is there a cause? No, there isn't a cause. Do you suffer from anxiety? Yes, I do. And then it's anxiety causing it. Do you know what I mean? So it's a process of elimination. But anyway, bradycardia, the opposite, slow heart rate, is way worse for me. Way worse than a fast heart rate. Way worse. It's lovely to see everyone supporting each other in the comments as well, by the way. It's great to see. I had chest pain this evening, sat with it. Turns out it was trapped wind. Excellent, Hannah. Well done. Perfect. The only thing I'd say is when the term sit with it and sit in it, I don't like it, because you don't just sit in it and stew in the symptoms and think about them and but instead, I mentioned it in a TikTok earlier this week, move forwards with the passage of time whilst the anxiety symptoms are present in whatever you're doing. If you're walking, keep walking. If you're sitting watching Netflix, keep sitting watching Netflix. But don't stop watching Netflix and look inwardly and sit with it. Keep watching Netflix and let the anxiety just kind of bubble away in the background. But perfect. You did really well there. Keep doing that for every anxiety symptom. And look, right, if we're having a medical emergency, we're going to fucking know about it pretty damn quick. So this is another thing that I used. So it was a technique that I used to change my behaviour, right, was I realised that if I truly was having a heart attack or a stroke or a brain hemorrhage or any other thing that was going to kill me like that, I was going to know about it within 15, 20 minutes. I was definitely going to know about it within an hour. So I used to set a timer on my watch and do nothing at all about it. And I was like, well, so be it. Like, come on then. If it's going to happen, let it happen. There's nothing I can do to stop it. And the brain would be screaming out, but Tom, what if this time it's different? You need to call an ambulance. You need to ring somebody for reassurance. You need to try and take your mind off this. You need to do this. You need to check your oxygen levels. It'd scream at me. And I just didn't. Over and over and over again. And that's what stopped my panic attacks. I had between 10 and 15 panic attacks every day. It was exhausting. Not actually just during the day, by the way. I would wake up having a panic attack. Not wake up, then have a panic attack. I would wake up having a panic attack multiple times through the night. It was exhausting. Absolutely exhausting. Acceptance is simple but not easy, but the only way. Absolutely, Barry. It is not easy. And there is no quick way to learn acceptance other than through practice, trial and error, over and over again. I feel like I've reached a new level of acceptance, but I'm by no means perfect. And I'm still recovering, remember, and I'm still learning. But this week, while I was up every day in the woods with a dog on my own, and it was just like fear. Was like, Dobby in Harry Potter, and he's kind of dancing around all over the place and looking up at Harry all the time. That's what it was like. I was walking and there was a little Dobby running around me, which was my fear. And I was just walking along, listening to my audiobook, playing with the dog, looking at the views and everything. And Dobby's just there running around me, Dobby the fear, running around me, staring at me, saying, Tom, this is dangerous. And I just kept walking and Dobby just kept dancing around me. And I felt like it was like a new level that I'd kind of reached, like I'd leveled up a little bit. Have you ever read a book called Yes, I have. And the Dare book is very good. It's just a rewritten version of Dr. Claire Weekes, which is I prefer Dr. Claire Weekes's book because so Self-Help for Your Nerves by Dr. Claire Weekes, which is my recovery model and Bible, is based on her work. Don't get me wrong, I'm using bits and pieces that I've learned from other places as well, but the foundation of it lies in acceptance. Dr. Claire Weekes was the she was the mothership of anxiety recovery and acceptance. Do you know what I mean? She gave birth to acceptance being the cure for anxiety. And in her book Self-Help for Your Nerves in 1962. And why I like Dr. Weekes' book over Dare is because Dr. Weekes goes into more detail, in my opinion, on the nervous system and sensitization and techniques for acceptance and floating. Dare is very much focused on quite intense exposure therapy, which it's the same model, it's just slightly different. But it's a great book. It's a great book. No one, sorry, someone said, no one has said, no one knows more about anxiety than myself. I got GAD, but all you talk about is the truth. Right, okay, well, that's good to know, right? Thanks, mate. I didn't know trap wind could cause chest pain. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So many things can cause chest pain, but it's mostly muscular. Tom, it's took over me where I don't like to go far from my home. My name is Kathleen. Bless you, Carleen. Bless you. I mean, I was the same. You know, I was bedbound by it. I couldn't leave this room. Terrified. Couldn't pick my son up from school. It was horrible. Couldn't do anything. Couldn't go to the supermarket. I've been trying to have this mindset, but the physical symptoms are unbearable. Yeah. So Rosie, what I would try is you've really got to look at how much you're resisting in the body. So Dr. Weekes talks about how we tensely hold on to ourselves. Even lying in bed, we're all tensed up, like holding on as if the bed isn't doing any of the work. You've really got to learn to let go of the body. And it is almost like I'm saying, just relax, Rosie. But I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, look at your body and from head to toe, relax every muscle. And you'll realise just how much tension you're holding onto yourself. Now, Rosie and everybody else who's suffering with really intense physical anxiety symptoms, there is an excellent way to try and restore some balance to your nervous system by giving you parasympathetic, which is the bit that we want to be the most dominant part of the nervous system because that's the calming part. The parasympathetic, there is a great way that you can activate the parasympathetic, and that's called yoga nidra. And it's not yoga poses. It's not you have to get a yoga mat and get your yoga pants on and start doing all these weird poses. You do it lying down in bed or on the sofa or on the floor, whatever you prefer. You do it lying down, headphones in, and it's like it's not like a guided meditation in Headspace where it's all about body scans. It is a little bit like a body scan, but it's not, because what it does is it goes through different points of the body. It is phenomenal. I cannot recommend it enough. There is a lady called Ali Boothroyd on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search Yoga Nidra and Ali Boothroyd will come up. It's linked on my website as well. It's on the useful resources page of my website. But why I love Yoga Nidra is because it has been studied. It has been studied and it has been proven to restore the nervous system just as much as 2 to 4 hours of deep sleep. So 40 minutes of Yoga Nidra is as restorative as between 2 and 4 hours sleep, deep sleep. That's how powerful Yoga Nidra is. It's excellent. I strongly recommend it to everybody. To supplement your anxiety recovery. Yoga Nidra on its own won't bring about recovery, but to supplement your recovery, to bring some balance and to lower the symptoms down a little bit so you can change your behaviours and you can accept more, is excellent. I do it myself multiple times a week. I try and do it every day, but sometimes the day runs away with me and I don't get a chance. But I would recommend it's a daily practice, twice a day, personally. Just reading some more comments. Let me just have a little drink of my tea because my mouth's getting a little bit dry. There were some comments where people are talking about being diagnosed with health conditions. I'm skipping over those comments because I don't want to scare other people, all right? And look, anxiety isn't causing them, but I'm just skipping over those comments. So I'm not being insensitive to the people that have mentioned those diagnoses. I'm just, I don't want to, people with health anxiety are incredibly sensitive to this type of thing. And if you can, try and be mindful before you put stuff like that in the chat as well. I'm not telling anybody off. I'm just being mindful that people here with health anxiety see the C word or, something wrong with the heart, and they will freak and think, oh, well, if that person's got it, that must be what's wrong with me. So just be mindful. Tips for agoraphobia, exposure therapy, and start small. So yeah, let's do a little section on agoraphobia recovery and exposure therapy. What we want the most when we've got agoraphobia is to just go back to our old selves and be like everybody else. Be able to go down the pub, go out for a meal, go to the cinema, climb a mountain, whatever go into town shopping, whatever the thing is that you used to love doing. And we want nothing more than to be able to do those things. Right? Go for a long drive to the coast or whatever. We want nothing more. And as a result, because we can't do those things, we think, well, what's the fucking point in doing anything then? What's the point in doing anything? If I can't do those things, there's no point doing anything. And that's a trap. That's a trap of anxiety and agoraphobia. So agoraphobia needs to be a gradual recovery process that can snowball very quickly and bring about recovery, depending on how deep ingrained your agoraphobia is. But again, it's about playing the long game. Agoraphobia is about playing the long game. So start by 10 steps away from the house. If that's easy, make it 20. If that's easy, make it 30. So you need to be pushing it to the boundary of a panic attack, right? And you walk that distance, and then you stay there. You don't run away. You face the fear. You don't have to walk any further at this point. You go there, you face it, you feel it for a bit, and you walk home slowly. You don't run home. And then you do it again the next day, and again, and again. And you increase it by 10 steps, 20 steps, 50 steps. And gradually you build it up over time. Now, I wish there was a way that you could just like that recover from agoraphobia, but you can't. There is no quick fix for it. But it's a gradual exposure therapy. So all of those small little trips in the beginning are not pointless. So when I said at the beginning, oh, if I can't go to the shop, I can't go to the restaurant, I can't go to the supermarket, what's the point in doing anything? Well, that's the point. Because if you do it every single day, those trips are not pointless anymore. So yeah, there we go. My comments have just scrolled right down to the bottom. So I'm going to scroll back up a little bit. Just bear with me. Some people talking about PTSD. I tend not to go into PTSD and stuff like that because it's, sensitive topics. So I tend not to go into it. Yeah, someone said here I've got into a pattern of taking paracetamol for my physical symptoms because I get headaches and pains. And funnily enough, I was the same. I would take a lot of paracetamol because the other thing that comes along with anxiety is sort of cold flu symptoms. And the reason is the stress response and the threat response, part of it is the immune system. And it's the immune system that makes us feel ill when we have a virus. It's the immune system fighting the virus that makes us feel ill. It's not actually the virus itself. So when the stress response is activated, we can get flu-like symptoms, aches and pains, if sore throat, runny nose, all the rest of it, because the immune system's active, because we're so anxious all the time. The immune system's just freaking out and going, well, is there something we need to do here? So it's very, very common to get these types of flu-like symptoms with anxiety. So I used to take paracetamol a lot. How did you change practice? And I'm still practicing. I'm still recovering. I'm not recovered, but I was bedbound 18 months ago, and now I'm not. And I go most of the day without such intense fear that I feel like I'm going to die, which is what I used to feel 24/7. I still have loads of physical symptoms. I mean, I've been suffering with this for a very long time. So it's going to take me a long time to recover, and I'm okay with that. I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to get there. Don't go out for a week at a time seeing a counsellor to help with this, yeah. I mean, you'd be better, Marie, to go out every single day, even if it's just 10 steps from your house or 25 steps from your house every single day, and do that every day, than to go out once a week at a further distance. Because going out once a week isn't enough to start the process of neuroplasticity off. I'm going to have to go soon, guys. I've got my son this weekend, and I need to get to bed a little bit earlier tonight, because otherwise I'll be knackered for him tomorrow, and I'll be a grumpy old daddy, and I don't want to be that. Do you find that you can give really good advice but can't put it into practice? Because I do. Oh, of course. I'm the world's #1 hypocrite, me. Of course, yeah. I mean, that's just part of the human condition, I think. But yeah, look, I can give great advice, but it's very hard to put into practice. But that's why I try and show you me putting it into practice instead of just coming on TikTok lives and telling you that I'm doing all this stuff. I record myself doing it, and that's why I record myself doing it, because I want you to see me going through the terror and putting it into practice. Can't understand that comment. There's a lot too many typos. I love Yoga Nidra. It's getting into the body. Yeah, Yoga Nidra is phenomenal. It really is. I strongly recommend Yoga Nidra for people. I'm on sertraline, 100 milligrams, seems to not work. Yeah, I mean, medication will it can only do so much. And yeah, I don't want to get too much into the medication debate, but yeah, it can only do so much. Can't make it into it this evening. Bless you, GG. You're struggling, aren't you? Bless you. Right, let me just read a few more comments. Can't shift the breathlessness. It's constant. Any tips? So this is one symptom where I did apply a technique to it, and it did, in the most part, get rid of it. So breathlessness, over-breathing, under-breathing, shallow breathing, air hunger, any of the above, anything to do with breathing, this breathing exercise works. And it's not a breathing exercise like you think, so don't all roll your eyes at once, because I know you are, right? Because I would be. And when I read it, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, here we go, another breathing exercise. This ain't going to work. It's in Dr. Weeks' book. And she tells you to empty your lungs completely and naturally. So the next time you breathe out until your lungs are completely empty. And then try not to breathe back in. So you're not taking a breath in and holding your breath. You're breathing out completely. And then try not to breathe back in. See how long you can go. And what you're doing here is you're facing the fear of stopping breathing by trying not to breathe. You are giving control back over to your body, or at least showing yourself that your body's in control, because eventually your body will take over and take a breath in. Not only that, it'll take exactly the amount of breath that it needs to take. And the other thing is, you repeat that over and over and over again. You keep doing it, right? Keep doing it. And what happens as you keep doing it? I mean, I was doing it for 10, 15 minutes at a time at one point. Breathing out, breath come back in, breathe out again, try not to breathe back in. But what happens eventually is you stop thinking about your breathing. And it's like, fucking hell, I've been doing everything to try and not think about my breathing. As soon as I try and stop breathing, I don't think about my breathing anymore. And that's exactly what Dr. Weeks said would happen, and it did. So I kept repeating this exercise over and over again, and eventually the fear of breathlessness went away. Well, I say that. The severity of this fear went down drastically, and now if I'm ever hyperventilating, overbreathing, underbreathing, that's my go-to. Right, go on then, stop breathing, empty your lungs, and you're giving control back to your body. I wrote a blog about it on my website a little while ago. Guys, I'm going to have to go. I'm really sorry for people that I haven't answered your comments. Head pressure, yes. Before I go, guys, right, and before you all shoot off because I've said I'm going, if you go to my TikTok profile and go to my website, I've created a new page called TikTok Library, right? Which is basically where I have put links to TikToks that have helped so many people around the most common symptoms. A lot of the ones people are asking here, like head pressure, dizziness, breathlessness, cardiophobia, DPDR, right? If you go to that page, TikTok Library, and there's a little search box at the top, and just type in dizziness or head pressure or whatever, and it'll filter the list down, and you can click the link and it'll take you straight to the TikTok instead of you having to scroll through my TikToks. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I've started to upload my TikTok live recordings to YouTube, and I'm then linking them on my website. So my TikTok live recordings from Sunday night and Monday night are up there on the same page. So if you want some more reassurance when I go off this live, and by that I mean good reassurance, not somebody just saying you'll be okay, hun, just breathe. I mean someone giving you actual information and explaining things. And my TikTok lives are there for you to listen to. And there's my recorded TikToks that cover specific topics and symptoms and things like that. All right. So that's the TikTok library page. And then there is the useful resources page, which if you want to get serious about anxiety recovery, go to the useful resources page, get the books that are recommended, listen to the podcasts that I've recommended on there. They are the thing that contain the right information that will teach you how to recover. You don't need to pay somebody hundreds of pounds a session. You can get anxiety recovery coaches and they're all great. I'm saying you don't have to. You don't have to do that. All right. So I'm going to have to shoot, guys. It's been lovely talking to you all again. I'm sending you all my love. And I'll catch you again live very soon. Take care.